These days, criticism of ISIS, the Quran, and even Islam as a whole is often met with the argument that, well, Christians have extremists too. Just look at the Crusades in the Westborough Baptist Church. This argument is riddled with holes which, when fully explored, just go to show how non-extreme Christianity really is. Something worth a mention is that the Crusades specifically were in retaliation to Muslim violence spreading out of the Middle East and into Europe. A lot of atheists and theists alike think that this is a justified retaliation. I, however, don't hold this view, and so my arguments will not be based around this historical justification perspective. It all comes down to sound theology, what the two faiths actually teach, which can only be found in the holy books themselves. Based on this qualification, the Westborough Baptists and the Crusaders are not Christian. Let's begin with a look at ISIS. The actions carried out by these terrorists frankly are perfectly in line with what the Quran teaches Muslims to do. Now I must warn you that some of these verses are quite disturbing, but nevertheless here are some things that devout Muslims believe in today. Surah 9:123 says, "O you who believe, fight those of the unbelievers who are near to you, and let them find in you hardness." Surah 9 verse 29 says, "Fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden which hath been forbidden by Allah and his messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth from among the people of the book, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued." Surah 22:19, "Punish the unbelievers with garments of fire, hooked iron rods, boiling water, melt their skin and bellies." Surah 47 verse 4, "So when you meet those who disbelieve, strike their necks until you have inflicted slaughter upon them, then secure their bonds, and either favour afterwards or ransom until the war lays down its burdens. This is the command. And if Allah had willed, he could have taken vengeance upon them himself, but he ordered armed struggle to test some of you by means of others. And those who are killed in the cause of God, never will he waste their deeds." Now it's clear to see that ISIS's attitude towards non-Muslims is not an un-Islamic one. It's actually quite in keeping with how the Quran teaches to act. Now let's take a look at the Christian holy book, the Bible. A huge part of the incarnation of Jesus was to fulfill the old law and establish the new. Christ taught loving your neighbour, loving your enemies even, and loving everyone just how God loves everyone. Romans 5:8, "But God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." 1 John 4 verse 8 says, "Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love." Mark 12 verses 29 to 31 says, "And Jesus answered him, The first of all the commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all of thy heart, with all of thy soul, with all of thy mind, and with all of thy strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is like, namely this, Thou shalt love thy neighbour as thyself. There is none other commandment greater than these." This teaching of God loving everyone is something that I'm sure you know the Westborough Baptists just don't believe in, as seen by their most well-known catchphrase, "God hates fags." The Westborough Baptists preach ideas of righteous hatred towards sinners, the very people that Jesus loved so much as to die for. Their theology is such a departure from Christian doctrine that it shouldn't rightly be called Christianity. The things that they say when trying to be good witnesses are nothing short of blasphemy. Again, it's about the contrast. ISIS are correctly following exactly what the Quran tells them that they should do. The Westborough Baptist Church, however, their fundamental beliefs stand opposed to the teachings of Christ. It is a cult. Now on the subject of the Crusades, again these actions go against the teachings of Jesus, teachings of forgiveness and mercy in the face of persecution. And some of these teachings are clear in the well-known Sermon on the Mount. In Matthew chapters 5 to 7 we can find Jesus teaching, "Blessed are the merciful, blessed are the peacemakers, blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so persecuted they the prophets which were before you." The Crusades were sinful and not Christian. Christianity condemns killing. Furthermore, Jesus says that we should turn the other cheek to those who would attack us. Yes, it seems like an extreme situation when Islam is ravaging Christian lands, but it would only be fitting to respond extremely Christ-like and turning the other cheek anyway. Jesus promised his followers that they would be persecuted, but why should we expect anything less from a world that couldn't even accept God himself? To conclude, ISIS war against non-Muslims, killing and subduing them. The Quran teaches to fight unbelievers, show hardness towards them and subdue them. Therefore, ISIS's actions are properly Muslim. The Crusaders violently retaliated to Islamic violence. The Westborough Baptists preach hatred of sinners, and that God hates some kinds of sinners. Jesus taught mercy and love to those who persecute you, to love everyone. He himself died for the love he had for sinners. Therefore, the Crusaders and Westborough Baptists are not properly Christian. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. I'll leave you today with a quote from Ravi Zacharias. He says that Islam is a political theory masquerading as a religion with a hot seabed of hate and destruction where the only answer is killing. Also, you can click on one of these videos to see another one.